There is nothing more terrifying than a bottomless black hole that seems to go on forever. In eastern Washington, a deep hole known as Mel's Hole is rumored to be endlessly deep, until experts sent a drone 1,000 meters down and found something that nobody could explain but terrified all witnesses of that footage. What did they see that traumatized them for life? Let us dive deep and explore what is lying inside what might be the deepest hole on Earth. In eastern Washington, there's a deep hole known as Mel's Hole, which is said to be bottomless by those who've tried to explore its depths. It was found by Mel Waters, the landowner, who was curious about its endless depth because no matter how much junk was thrown in, it never seemed to fill up. Cameras sent down to see what was at the bottom only captured blurry images that puzzled everyone who saw them. Located on the Manistash Ridge near Ellensburg, this hole resembles a common well but serves no purpose for water retrieval. Over time, it became a dumping spot for the community, where everything from everyday garbage to broken-down cars and old tires was disposed of. Despite this, the hole's capacity to absorb never seemed to diminish, which intrigued Mel and made him wonder about the actual depth and contents of this hole. Dogs in the area were noticeably disturbed by the hole, refusing to get close and showing signs of fear whenever near it. Mel also noticed strange disruptions in radio signals when he was near the hole, adding to the weird occurrences surrounding it. The depth of the hole was an ongoing fascination, not just for Mel but for many others who heard about it. In 2017, researchers lowered a camera into the hole in an effort to understand more. The footage was unclear but unsettling enough to make them leave quickly, keeping the hole's ominous reputation alive. Using his fishing gear, he attached a weight to a line and started lowering it into the pit. He let out 4,500 feet of fishing line, but it never hit bottom. Not giving up, he switched the weight for a pack of Lifesavers candy, thinking if there was water at the bottom, they would dissolve. However, they came back up dry, prompting him to use even more line. Eventually, he had let down nearly 2 miles of line and still hadn't hit bottom. In a staggering display of persistence, Mel extended his experiment to use 880,000 feet of fishing line, more than 166 miles, and still the bottom was nowhere in sight. This phenomenon wasn't only peculiar due to its depth. The surrounding area was unusually quiet, devoid of birds or insects, although birds seemed to fly over it without trouble. Neighbors mentioned their dogs behaved similarly around the hole, showing anxiety and unwillingness to approach it. One neighbor even recounted a bizarre incident where he claimed his dead dog, which he had thrown into the hole, appeared alive days later, seemingly unrecognizable and distant. Despite numerous attempts to figure out what Mel's Hole was all about, its true nature remained an enigma. Frustrated and baffled by the scale of his find and the growing legends surrounding it, Mel turned to a popular nighttime radio show, Coast to Coast AM, hosted by Art Bell. The show specialized in discussing the paranormal and unexplained phenomena. Mel hoped the diverse and curious listeners might offer some insights or theories about the strange events linked to the hole. As stories of Mel's Hole spread further, they sparked a mix of skepticism and fascination, illustrating our deep-seated attraction to unresolved, peculiar tales. This tale of a seemingly endless pit continues to be a subject of speculation, drawing attention and debate from all who hear of it, underscoring our enduring fascination with the unexplainable aspects of the world around us. In late February 1997, Mel suddenly found himself in the spotlight after he called into a popular radio show hosted by Art Bell, who was known for his interest in strange and unusual topics. Mel shared information about a very deep hole on his land. This call not only shared his discovery with the world but also attracted unexpected attention. As the tale of the hole spread, listeners from around the world tuned in, offering advice on how to measure its depth using lasers or explore beneath its surface with radar technology. However, the more the story was discussed, the more it drew unwanted attention. The very next morning after his broadcast, Mel was shocked to find that he was no longer allowed to enter his own property. The military had taken over, claiming they needed to investigate a supposed plane crash, though there was no wreckage or any signs of an actual crash. With military helicopters overhead and armed personnel on the ground, Mel's life turned into something from a film. The hole itself seemed to have peculiar effects, Animals stayed away from it, but plants thrived. Radios malfunctioned, picking up broadcasts from many years ago. Mel's interactions with the military were tense. They made vague threats about his land ownership and hinted at finding illegal activities, trying to intimidate him. As the story continued on the radio, Mel talked about neighbors seeing strange things, like a dark beam of light shooting upward from the hole. These tales were never confirmed by Mel directly, but were eagerly believed by the radio show's audience, who were already familiar with other strange occurrences in the area like UFO sightings and people disappearing. The audience loved to guess about the hole's true nature. Some thought it was a gateway on a mystical line of energy called a ley line. Others imagined it as an entrance to another world inside the Earth. This wild guessing continued as more people chimed in with their ideas and historical snippets, such as ancient stone pillars that used to surround the hole. What happens next will surprise everyone. A sacred site's forgotten mystery. Despite the growing public fascination, Mel's situation became more difficult. His open talks on the radio might have been attracting too much attention from the government. He continued to provide updates and new details on the show, which seemed to serve two purposes: keeping listeners hooked and perhaps inadvertently informing the government about his activities. When Mel suddenly stopped appearing on the radio just before he was due to give an update, everyone was abuzz with speculation. He later resurfaced with a story about being offered a lot of money to give up his land and move to Australia, with strict conditions to stop talking about the hole and to leave the US. He took the deal and moved, but his longing for home brought him back quietly to visit his family, showing he couldn't fully let go of his past. This extended story, filled with peculiar events and dramatic turns, often seemed over the top. It appeared to play into the hands of those who enjoy spinning conspiracy theories and tales of cover-ups. Whether Mel's hole was a significant discovery or just an ordinary hole that became famous through public fascination and an exaggerated military response is still a matter of debate. What's clear is that the truth behind Mel's story remains as unclear as the supposed depths of the hole he discovered. Mel had planned to go on Art Bell's radio show to share more of his recent experiences, but his day took a wild turn. He was heading to visit his nephew by bus when a huge argument broke out among the passengers. Things got so intense that the police had to step in. After a lot of questions, everyone was moved to a different bus. Just when it seemed things were settling down, Mel suddenly passed out. He woke up completely lost in an alley in San Francisco, with no memory of the past 12 days. His wallet was missing, and there were several needle marks on his arm, suggesting he had been through some sort of medical procedure. He also noticed some of his back teeth were gone, and he could taste blood in his mouth. Trying to understand what happened, Mel found himself caught up in legal issues. He was accused of building structures illegally, things like houses and roads. But Mel was confused because his land had been occupied by the government for the last 2 years. Despite his protests, he ended up losing his property. When Mel tried to get back on the radio with Art Bell, he discovered all his money had vanished from his bank account. People started saying he made up his whole story, but Art Bell, always interested in unusual tales, invited him back on the show anyway. During his second appearance, Mel talked about a TV crew that had tried and failed to find his hole but noticed a lot of military activity in the area. The airspace above his land had become restricted, and an online satellite image showed just a black square where his land was supposed to be. This image had only appeared on the website 6 months after Mel first talked to Art Bell, so he couldn't have made up his story based on that. Things took another turn when a Native American tribe from Nevada contacted him. They had heard about his troubles and thought he could help them with a similar situation they were investigating. This hole was in a public area where the Basque people lived. They had moved to Nevada from the area between France and Spain in the 1800s to herd sheep and considered the hole sacred. It was about the same size as Mel's hole, 9 feet across, but it had a metal ring around it instead of stone. The metal felt warm to the touch and strangely absorbed sound, as Mel found out when he accidentally dropped a tool onto it. Mel and the Basque people started experimenting with the hole, beginning with lowering a bucket filled